Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk a little bit about the Ontario Ombudsman and municipalities. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about our role and functions, some trends in recent municipal complaints, as well as talk about a few cases, including one of our formal investigations, Inside Job, which involved an investigation into the regional municipality of Niagara's hiring of its chief administrative officer. Hopefully, we'll also have some time for questions and answers at the end. The Ontario Ombudsman's Office has been around since 1975. The Ombudsman is appointed an officer of the Legislative Assembly, similar to the Auditor General and the Information and Privacy Commissioner. The Ombudsman conducts independent and impartial reviews and investigations of complaints relating to public sector bodies. He can also investigate on his own initiative. We oversee more than 1,000 government and public sector bodies. Most recently, in May 2019, we assumed the investigative responsibilities of the former provincial advocate for children and youth and the responsibilities of the French Language Services Commissioner. Paul Dubé is the seventh Ombudsman. He was sworn in on April 1st, 2016. The Ombudsman's work is governed by the Ombudsman Act. Our focus is on administrative conduct, including the implementation of policies. In terms of municipalities, that means generally we don't review political decisions of council. The Ombudsman isn't a court. He can't issue orders, but he can issue a report and non-binding recommendations if he identifies concerns. The Ombudsman's mission is to work collaboratively with municipal sector bodies to resolve complaints. His intervention can be in the best interests of organizations. Either their work will be validated by an independent third party, or constructive feedback will be provided that will enable them to address the root causes of complaints and prevent them from recurring. Ontario Ombudsman is intended to be an office of last resort. So if someone comes to us before they've gone through a local complaint process, generally we'll refer them back. If there is a right of appeal or review on the merits, we have to wait till that process concludes or the right expires before we can get involved. We assess each case on its individual facts. We have broad discretion to decide whether or not to investigate and consider various circumstances, including if the subject matter of a complaint is frivolous or vexatious or not made in good faith. When we're investigating, we have very robust powers of investigation. Staff act under delegated authority and may require disclosure of information and documents. As well, staff and officials from public sector bodies are required to cooperate with our requests. We can also summons anyone who may have relevant information to attend and be examined under oath. We have the right to enter public sector premises to inspect. Typically, when we do go to premises, we do so on consent. However, historically, this power is used for inspecting correctional facilities, particularly where there are issues regarding living conditions. Obstructing, resisting, or hindering the ombudsman can be a provincial offence, garnering a fine of up to $500 or imprisonment for up to 3 months. These provisions underscore the seriousness of the process, but as far as I'm aware, they have never been used in this province. In the provincial sector, if we investigate and write a report or make recommendations, we must table our report with the Legislative Assembly, and at that point it becomes public. In other sectors, once we've delivered the final report to the body, for instance, a municipality, it can be made public. The vast majority of our formal recommendations have been accepted. It's often said that our greatest power is that of moral suasion through publication of our reports. These are the 4 teams that handle our complaints in our general unit addressing municipal matters. Complaints usually are first seen by the early resolution officers. They handle the bulk of complaints coming to our office. 63% of our cases are resolved within a week, often with just a couple of phone calls. As an independent and impartial body, we do not advocate for complainants. We resolve cases to our satisfaction. Early resolution officers conduct detailed intake interviews with complainants and research and review information from various sources. They do not conduct investigations. They always obtain consent from complainants before contacting municipalities for information, and this is documented in our case management system. Early on, some municipal officials expressed concern about sharing information with our office if there wasn't a formal investigation. For decades, we've found this approach to be more efficient and effective and in the interest of all involved. The Information and Privacy Commissioner has confirmed that our practices do not conflict with privacy concerns, and we can provide staff of municipalities with confirmation that we have consent to request disclosure if they wish. Those cases that require more investigative work generally go to the investigations team or legal team. Investigators often conduct informal resolutions as well. They will escalate issues up the administrative hierarchy if necessary. Very few formal investigations are conducted. Some complex cases and all complaints about closed meetings at the municipal level are handled by our legal team. Larger systemic issues are dealt with by our Special Ombudsman Response Team. This is the team that carries out many of our formal field investigations, most of which end up in a formal report and recommendations. They address high-profile serious issues, and the recommendations that have resulted from their efforts have promoted necessary positive change in many areas, including with respect to services for adults with developmental disabilities. These past 7 months have definitely been unprecedented. Like many in the province, our staff are working remotely from home. Our physical offices are closed. However, we continue to receive and resolve complaints. Early on in the pandemic, we heard from some municipal officials and others with concerns about conducting council meetings while balancing safety precautions. Our office proactively raised these issues with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and as you know, legislative amendments were introduced to allow for greater flexibility in holding electronic meetings. As the coronavirus spread across the province, long-term care homes were particularly hard hit. On June 1st, the Ombudsman launched an own motion investigation into the oversight of long-term care homes by the province's Ministry of Long-Term Care and Ministry of Health. This ongoing investigation will focus on whether the government's measures are adequate to ensure the safety of residents and staff during the pandemic. We're also working on two other systemic investigations, one concerning delays at the Landlord-Tenant Board and the other concerning the province's handling of ambulance service complaints. In fiscal year 2019-2020, we received 3,104 complaints about 314 of Ontario's municipalities, not including closed meeting complaints. These are the top 5 categories of municipal complaints for that year. Council and committees complaints involve disagreements with council decisions or elected officials' conduct. However, the Ombudsman's focus is on administrative process and fairness, not the behavior of individuals. Most cases related to municipal housing were resolved by facilitating communication with local officials. Bylaw enforcement remains a significant source of municipal complaints, both from residents concerned that bylaws are not being enforced and from those who feel they're enforced too harshly. Infrastructure and planning zoning complaints can involve roads, trees, snow removal, land use, and drainage issues. To go through a few cases from our most recent annual report dealing with municipal matters. In one, a property owner complained that municipal council didn't let him speak at a meeting about a housing development. Municipal officials acknowledged he wasn't informed that the meeting had been rescheduled due to an administrative error. The municipality apologized and provided the gentleman with an opportunity to speak to council later. A woman also sought our help after waiting more than 18 months for the local integrity commissioner to complete an investigation of her complaint about a councillor's conduct. After we discussed the delay with municipal officials, the integrity commissioner completed the review and released a report. In another case, a man complained that he was turned down for social housing because of a debt he had incurred to the municipality 10 years ago. We spoke with city staff who acknowledged that the circumstances that led to the debt were not fair. We asked the city to contact him directly to confirm that his debt was forgiven and he could be added to the housing list. In another case, a woman waiting for social housing to escape domestic violence complained that it was taking too long to process her application. She said that the municipality told her the paperwork they had mailed to her was returned as undeliverable, but no one from the housing department had followed up with her. After we spoke to the municipality, housing staff contacted her to ensure her application was complete and on track. In another case, a woman complained that she was billed more than $2,500 for having an illegal fire, even though she had obtained a burn permit from the municipality's fire department. Our inquiries determined that the fire was not extinguished before dark, as required by the permit, and that the charges were for the cost of fire trucks that responded to an emergency call to put it out. The woman pointed out that the municipality's fee bylaw said that residents would not be charged for their first violation of a burn permit. After we spoke with municipal officials, they took steps to ensure that the bylaw was amended to clarify when burn permit holders might be charged. In another case, a man who wanted to dispute a $40 parking ticket told municipal staff he'd call them back to schedule a hearing. But when he did so, he found out it had already taken place. He complained to us that he'd received no notice and no one from the municipality would answer his calls and emails. Meanwhile, the unpaid fine had escalated to over $200. Ombudsman staff spoke to a manager at the municipality who reviewed the file and discovered several errors by the municipality, which agreed to cancel the fine, contact the Ministry of Transportation to withdraw its penalty for an unpaid fine, and send the man an explanation and apology. The manager also said that staff would review the case to determine how similar errors could be prevented in future. Since January 1st, 2016, when we first obtained jurisdiction in the municipal sector, we've received 14,734 complaints about municipalities. And as of October 9th, 2020, we've closed 14,549 of those issues. The vast majority of these cases were closed through informal resolution. While we've received more than 14,700 general complaints about municipalities in almost 5 years, we've only conducted 6 formal investigations. A little later on, I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about our most recent investigation, Inside Job. However, the first investigation we looked into concerned the city of Brampton. It was the city that asked us to come in and look at its processes. The Ombudsman investigated Brampton's non-competitive procurement process. He didn't find that there was any evidence of maladministration, but his report proposed 15 best practices to enhance transparency and public confidence in the process, including appointing an Auditor General. Next, the Ombudsman considered trespass orders in the township of Red Rock near Thunder Bay. He found that the township, in barring a councillor from the local town hall for more than 2 years, was excessive and unjustly punitive. Among the Ombudsman's 11 recommendations were that the township immediately rescind the trespass order, create a policy to apply to conduct by members of the public, revise its anti-harassment policy, create a trespass policy, adopt a code of conduct for council members, and appoint an integrity commissioner. The Ombudsman also looked at bylaw issues in his report, Bylaw Surprise, where he considered the actions of the Township of St. Clair and County of Lambton. In that case, a resident was surprised with a bill for over $11,000 in bylaw enforcement expenses. The Ombudsman made 16 recommendations, including that the township should clearly authorize the recovery of costs related to inspections, enforcement, and administration, amend its clearing of land bylaw accordingly, and include a right of appeal. And then we looked into the regional municipality of Niagara. Chaos had ensued at a regional council meeting on December 7, 2017, when it was discovered that a digital recorder belonging to a citizen blogger had been left running after the meeting was closed to the public. Officials seized the device, as well as a laptop belonging to a newspaper journalist, called police, and unfairly ejected both men from the meeting, the Ombudsman found. He called on the municipality to apologize publicly to the local journalists and the blogger, and also made several other recommendations, including that the municipality clarify its procedural bylaw, trespass policy, and related policies to clarify the definition of improper conduct, update and clarify its procedural bylaw, and make sure that it developed procedures to ensure public access doors are not locked during meetings. As I noted at the outset of this presentation, we try to work to find a resolution at the lowest possible level. With municipalities, this means referring people back to local officials to resolve their issues first, as we are an office of last resort. We encourage all municipalities to have strong and accessible processes to deal with complaints and appeals, and to establish local accountability officers, such as ombudsmen. The Ontario Ombudsman will only get involved after a complaint has gone through the local complaint process in place, or if you have a local ombudsman and that ombudsman refuses to investigate, or if the time to bring a complaint against the local government has passed. Having a complaints policy helps build confidence in local government and the fairness of its administration. Having an effective and credible complaints regime illustrates the organization makes fairness and sound administration a priority. In many cases, developing a complaint policy may simply involve formalizing things staff are already doing. It also helps staff by taking away the responsibility for figuring out how to respond to each new complaint. In addition, by documenting each step of the process, A municipality is prepared if our office calls, since they don't have to dig back through emails or try to figure out what happened months before. We have information on our website about creating a robust policy if you're interested. We don't always contact a municipality if we've received a complaint. We make a lot of referrals. We may also not make inquiries if it's clear the complaint doesn't fall within our mandate, what the complainant wants the municipality to do is clearly unreasonable, or based on the information they've given us, they have already received an appropriate response from the municipality. If we do call, we rely on your cooperation to resolve cases effectively and efficiently. We assess to determine who we need to speak to, and resolving complaints can be done more effectively and efficiently if it's a collaborative process. Our early resolution officers, who handle most of the municipal complaints that we receive, find that the best files are the ones where a municipality has kept careful and thorough records and documents of incidents. They've tried hard to communicate clearly and directly with complainants, and when we speak to them, they're prepared. They've reviewed the file and the necessary information. Apart from general municipal complaints, we also deal with complaints about closed municipal meetings. In Ontario since 2008, municipalities have been required to appoint an investigator specifically to look at complaints about closed meetings. If they don't, the Ontario Ombudsman becomes the investigator by default. We are currently the closed meeting investigator for about 246 municipalities. Our role in the closed meeting area is very different from our role in dealing with general complaints about municipalities. It's primarily an enforcement role. We look at the very narrow exceptions in the Municipal Act to determine if a meeting has been closed appropriately and make recommendations if it hasn't. Many of the closed meeting complaints we receive result in formal investigations and reports. We publish hundreds of our closed meeting investigation reports on our digital case digest. It can be searched by topic, municipality, and specific points of law. The digest is the first resource of its kind in Canada. Although all of our municipal reports are published on CanLII and on our own website, this tool offers a more searchable option that allows you to filter based on the types of cases you're looking for. We also publish a quick reference guide to the province's open meeting rules, Open Meetings Guide for Municipalities. This pocket-sized guide is sent to every municipal clerk and council member in Ontario after municipal elections and posted online. It includes tips and best practice suggestions for officials and incorporates recent changes to the law. We've completed 6 municipal investigations. In many of these cases, we have made systemic recommendations that impact the community, but may also be relevant to other municipalities, such as recommendations to improve bylaw enforcement processes and procedures. Today, I'd like to spend a little time talking about our November 2019 report, Inside Job, involving an investigation into matters relating to the regional municipality of Niagara's hiring of its chief administrative officer and its administration of his contract. At the end of October 2016, the Regional Municipality of Niagara hired a new Chief Administrative Officer after a 6-month recruitment process. Almost 18 months later, a local newspaper published allegations that the CAO had improperly received confidential information about the hiring process during the competition. It was suggested that staff in the office of the regional chair had leaked the names and biographical details of other candidates to the individual who became the CAO, giving him an unfair advantage. Council acted quickly to appoint a municipal ombudsman to look into the matter. In his July 2018 report, that ombudsman found that no confidential information had been disclosed to the CAO before he was hired. However, some, including local media, questioned the adequacy of the municipal ombudsman's investigation. After the municipal ombudsman's report was made public, a local newspaper reported that the prospective CAO had not only received information about the other candidates before he was hired, but was improperly given questions and suggested answers to prepare for interviews. Council then directed staff to search the region's computer servers for evidence of the leaks and to request access to servers at the local conservation authority, the CAO's previous employer. External governance auditors were appointed to oversee that process. At this time, Council also became aware that the CAO's contract had been extended for 3 years without its knowledge, legal advice, or the input of any professional staff. The contract had also been amended to include some unusually favorable terms for the CAO, including a provision for 36 months' notice, even if he were to be terminated for cause. When the auditors reported back to Council in late August 2018, they explained that they had no expertise to assess the software or methodology used by staff in the search, and that they were unable to search the servers belonging to the CAO's former employer without that body's approval. Council directed the auditors to discontinue their review and asked that the Ombudsman investigate the circumstances surrounding the CAO's hiring. Our office received 113 complaints urging that we look into this matter. Once we announced the investigation, our complaints rose to 171. Our investigations focus on systemic issues, administrative processes, and fairness. In this case, we didn't focus on the individuals involved, but on the municipality's systems, its policies, procedures, and practices relating to the CAO hiring process, the amendment and extension of the CAO's contract, and the municipality's response to public concerns. Our investigation confirmed that staff in the regional chair's office shared confidential information, including questions for interviews, suggested answers for a written exercise, and biographical information about other candidates with the individual who became the CAO. We found evidence that the documents were saved to his computer at the Conservation Authority. Some witnesses we interviewed suggested that the digital evidence could have been tampered with, fabricated, or planted. To assess the reliability of the evidence we collected, we retained computer forensic experts to review the files. Those experts found no evidence of hacking or files being planted and concluded with reasonable confidence that no tampering occurred in this case. The 2018 election resulted in significant changes to Niagara's Regional Council, as the majority of council members departed or were not re-elected, including the regional chair. Shortly after, the CAO and 2 other staff members who had involvement in his hiring left their positions with the municipality. In January 2019, the media reported that the new regional council had passed a confidential resolution declaring the CAO's contract void. The issues of the extension of the CAO's contract and his departure are currently before the courts. Accordingly, our office did not make any findings concerning the validity of the contract, but limited our consideration to best contract practices. Although the regional municipality did endeavor to retain external reviewers to shed light on what had happened, there were several flaws with its approach. It didn't speak to the auditors ahead of time or take any steps to determine whether the work was within their expertise or scope of practice, which it was not. Our investigation also revealed that Council provided little direction to the municipal ombudsman about the scope of his appointment or his expectations for the investigative process. We identified several concerns with the municipal ombudsman's approach, including that he neglected relevant avenues of inquiry and did not follow the requirements of the Municipal Act. The Ombudsman made 16 recommendations, which were all unanimously accepted by Council. The Ombudsman's recommendations include several measures to ensure the municipality preserves the integrity of hiring processes in future, including that it have an employee code of conduct or ethics that provides for the protection of confidential information, training for staff on the use of personal email and retention of corporate records, a bylaw setting the parameters of the relationship between Council and the CAO, including the role of Council regarding amending the CAO's contract and salary, a policy setting up the process for hiring a CAO. The Ombudsman also recommended that the region assure that there are clear terms of reference for municipal ombudsman investigations, including reference to requirements for the scope of issues to be investigated, evidence collection, confidentiality, including of witnesses, and preliminary reporting. By February 2020, staff had implemented 6 of the 16 recommendations and had reported to Council on the details of plans and timeframes for completing the remainder. On a practical level, we encourage local complaint mechanisms and we strive to have complaints resolved as quickly as possible and at the most local level possible. We don't advocate for either side of a complaint, we remain impartial and look to see if the administrative processes are fair and if they're properly followed. We don't investigate every complaint. We seek to resolve complaints informally whenever possible, and we don't duplicate the work of local officials. We're not an appeal body, and we can't compel a municipality to act. We make recommendations and rely on moral suasion to ensure our recommendations are implemented. Our power is in our voice. To date, almost all of our recommendations have been accepted, and we do a lot of work to follow up and make sure they are implemented. We have several resources on our website that might be useful for municipalities if they wish to consult them. One is a self-assessment tool recently developed by Canada's provincial and territorial ombudsman to assist public organizations ensure that their policies, programs, and practices are consistent with the principles of administrative law and the standards of societal fairness. We also have several wallet-sized tip cards, including about closed meetings, codes of conduct and integrity commissioners, and local complaint processes. Here's some information about how to find us, and now hopefully we'll have some time for some questions.